the last week has certainly shown us how difficult and how current this war is in our society. Um, it is a conflict that resonates because it matters so much to this day. It matters because it's so relevant to the society that we have. It matters because so many Americans have such a deep personal connection to what happened on these fields. And as we try to reckon with this national event with which we have this close and personal relationship, it's going to be hard. We'll continue to kind of work through this, but our pleasure, our joy is to be in these places, to understand these places as well as we can in all their manifestations, the good and the bad and the ugly, and to recognize that what goes on in living rooms and in people's individual lives sometimes matter greatly to the nation. And what matters greatly to the nation often reverberates down into our living rooms as well. So we'll continue to tell those stories and make those connections. I would say this, that America is has transitioned from a mode where the emphasis was on what people's intent in displaying the flag, their stated intent in displaying the flag, was kind of primary. And we've transitioned to looking and seeing the flag instead through the people who perceive it, who don't always see it in the same way that those who display it intended to be. And when you look at the Confederate flag through the eyes of those who perceive it, it's sometimes different. It has a slightly different meaning. I think there's reality. I mean, the Confederacy, a lot of people say that the Confederacy had nothing to do with slavery, which is simply untrue. The Confederacy was created to sustain slavery. And so, of course, you know, now that, I mean, America did a great job for 120 or 30 years of seeing the Confederacy through the eyes of our ancestors, rather than through the eyes of what the purpose of the Confederacy was. But nowadays, people see much more clearly and much more vividly why the Confederacy attempted to create itself. And that had a great deal to do with sustaining slavery. And so the symbols of that nation are seen by many to be associated with that cause. Not with your ancestors, but with that cause. The battle flag, I mean, if you grew up black in the South in the 1950s, the Confederate battle flag had a very distinct meaning to you. But the Confederate flags in general have always been associated with a government that was intended to sustain slavery.